checking in on the wonderful adventures of Niles, which, boy, Selma Selma Lagerlof, really earns her keep as a writer here, because, this is a children's story, but yet again, we kind of go a little bit deeper. And in this one, maybe it's a little bit more on the sentimental side. I mean, they both the crane dance and this might be a bit on the sentimental side, but it did touch me, I find, where he's come to a farm where it seems very desolate and ill-tended, and like maybe there's nobody here, but he goes into the cow house and he finds, oh shit, there's an old cow in here, and the old cow complains, the old peasant woman who takes care of it hasn't been back, and they're terribly hungry and stuff like that. The boy kind of helps the cow a bit, but then the cow's like, can you go check on the old peasant woman? She's my mistress, and, I need to know if she's okay or not. And he goes and he finds out that she's dead. And what it turns out is this was a kind of a prosperous kind of farm full of children. And the old peasant woman had a husband. The husband dies. She takes on all the work. She's working like, so hard. She's crying, but they make it through it. And as the years go on, all the children leave, and they send back some grandchildren, but then the grandchildren also leave. It turns out they've all gone to America, to the United States. And she's been left here alone. And she's, it's in loneliness and longing for her children. And she gets some people come up who say like, oh, we want to buy your land because we're going to drain the swamp and we'll be able to, raise grain there. And, whether this is true or not, this makes her both anxious and glad, because I can write to my children and tell them, come back. We can raise grain here, and you'll have stuff for bread. And, this kind of fond, obviously dream of hers, is what she was going off to write to them about. But then she passed away in the midst of this maybe faint, maybe foolish hope. And that in itself is kind of a thing, but Niles goes up to the house because, again, to say like, well, could you sit with her? And, she's a very pious woman. Could you sit with her and close her eyes and cross her things, like, do all the things to honor the dead for her? And he reluctantly agrees. It's stormy. There's some owls are kind of hanging around that might be danger to him, but he goes and does this. And he looks at her dining room table and he sees portraits of the family and of her children and the grandchildren, and thinks about how it reflects on how sad it was that she spent her last years lonely and longing for her children. And this probably goes into my own family stuff and how my mother and I never particularly reconciled before she passed away. But he realizes, and this is kind of a cool thing of like character development for a really shitty little kid that Niles was, is that he realizes, my parents are probably, maybe they're feeling the same longing for me. I mean, and he's got enough self-awareness to go, I was never the kid that, particularly anyone would long to have back. But maybe I could become that kid if I went back and I was a better person. And I mean, he's becoming a better person as we go along in this story. He's no longer a torturer of animals. He's helping. He cares about his companions. He's decent and he's brave. So, having this kind of like, my parents probably are worried about me, and I like to be the kind of child that they would long for, and then I could actually be with and take care of them and support them and repay them for their love and kindness for me. So Selma Lagerlof is definitely a writer with some chops there, because that really touched me. That really got me. And I mean, I've got my own family stuff, but it's also just a nice kind of progression of Niles from a real shitty little psychopath into a decent, caring human being who is maybe going to be, a decent child for his parents. So that's pretty cool. I'll leave it there.